What's going on, all you wild 80s hair metal enthusiasts? Your two favorite wild boys that were born in the 80s are back today. And we're going to talk about the new Hulu show, Pam and Tommy.
What the hell is this? I ain't gonna go my
way. So Wild Boys are back to talk about the brand new series, Pam and Tommy, that just hit Hulu. The first 3 episodes premiered. I mean, this guy checked it out, and it's kind of weird going back in time because I remember 1995 when this all took place. Sex tapes, and that was pretty much unheard of back then. We didn't have the technology we have today with your cell phone and recording and all that stuff. But this is a big ordeal. Essentially, Tommy Lee was the drummer of Motley Crue, big deal back in the day, huge hair metal band. I had some banger of hits, and then Pamela Anderson from Baywatch and Home Improvement and a bunch of stuff. She was a big star back then. They both were. They knew each other for 96 hours, got married, and this is the story. This is their adventure, really their relationship, how they got together, and how it all has to do with the sex tape and that getting out.
Show does a really good job of capturing this moment in time between these two, juggernauts of entertainment, and just meeting them, when Tommy was, pretty much fresh out of Motley Crue. I mean, they're still together, but not as big as they were in the 80s, but he was gaining more popularity towards the later 90s here, in the mid to later 90s. He was starting to, adopt some of the new metal stuff that was coming out. So he was seeing a little resurgent towards the end here. And then we had Pamela Anderson, one of the biggest, sex symbols of the late 90s, being in Baywatch, obviously. And this was kind of the height of both of their, celebrity, careers here. This was the height of it. They ended up meeting at a bar one night. Tommy spotted Pamela sitting over there and kind of went over and introduced himself. He's this brash bad boy. There's a funny scene in the beginning there where they're in the club and Pam's talking to her other friends, and she's like, I just need a good guy. I'm sick of these bad boys. I'm always going out with the bad boys, and the same thing always happens. Next thing you know, Tommy spots her and walks over, and there you go, the biggest bad boy she could ever have, Tommy Lee. And it starts their big, relationship. That it's a whirlwind relationship, and this show does a really good job capturing that. We get the shots of Tommy Lee's house in the beginning. He's getting it renovated. In the beginning, he has this huge mansion, of course, from all his fortune that he's made from the crew over the years. And he's going to have a lot of things custom made. He's getting a bed custom made and put in. And Seth Rogen is one of the, construction guys that are working on the project at his house. Seth Rogen here, of course, he's always the comic relief, and this one's no different, although he plays it more straight than usual. It's not all comedy. He also does some drama here. He does some good work as this character, this construction worker who Tommy Lee kind of treats like dirt and orders around and flashes all the money in the world in his face. Seth Rogen's character builds this bed for him. Tommy Lee wants him to move it right away, even though he's just got done nailing it in, and it would be a major hassle to move it. But Tommy Lee's like, I got all the money. It doesn't matter how much it costs. Just move it. And he sort of orders him around and uses his, rich, situation that he's in life to kind of rub it in the face of this construction worker who, had big dreams, but nothing's worked out. He's kind of this single bachelor guy who's, goes home and jerks off at night and sort of lives in a 1-bedroom apartment. He's kind of lost. And, he's, after this happens to him from Tommy Lee, it sort of sets off this, him wanting to get revenge on Tommy. And what better way than to steal a safe out of old Tommy Lee's house?
And that's when the old wild sex tape gets out, from the old honeymoon, back in the 90s, we could, remember seeing all the headlines about this. This is a big deal. This is kind of unheard of back then, sex tapes and things like that. But, Seth Rogen's character Rand, construction worker, pissed off at Tommy Lee because Tommy Lee's a total douchebag. That's what he's known for, being a bad boy, wild boy, doing crazy stuff and pissing people off. And that's exactly what he does. And Rand gets the tape, and obviously he's out there to get money for payback to Tommy for being an asshole to him and not paying him for the job they did at his house. And that's pretty much the first episode. The second episode, more of the relationship, how they got together, and their, I guess you can call it, dynamic relationship. Based on sex, drugs, and rock and roll and debauchery. And you can see that the second episode, a lot of nudity, them banging all over the place, being in love, you know,
Yeah.
going through that honeymoon phase and banging all over the place. And then we're eventually introduced to the prosthetic penis that's voiced by Rafi from the league. The wildest thing I've seen in some time. I didn't see that coming, but essentially Tommy Lee has the prosthetic penis that moves up and down and talks and things like that. So it's pretty wild. The performances in the show are pretty good. I thought, you know, Sebastian Stan did a good job getting the wild side of Tommy Lee. I don't think he necessarily looked like him, and he's a lot shorter than Tommy Lee is. Tommy Lee's a big guy, tall guy. And Lily James looked, you know, somewhat like Pamela, you know, not, you know, twins or anything, but I thought that she did a pretty good job with the character. It was pretty believable. I really didn't know what to expect of the show, but it was a fun time. I laughed a lot, and it's, you know, doesn't take itself seriously. It's just trying to show the wild side of these two pop culture phenomena. It's back in the 1990s and everything that went down with that, and how the tape got out, and, you know, the lives that were, you know, pretty much stolen and ruined with that sex tape getting out just for money and payback. So I had a really good time with the first 3 episodes.
Definitely a show that doesn't take itself seriously, like you said. This reminds me of like a kind of like a Lifetime movie, kind of look at a story,
Yep.
but from a more comedic angle. But you know, it's really well done. I like what they did here. They did a good job, definitely capturing, you know, the firecracker of a relationship between these two, you know, larger than life celebrities at the height of their careers in the 90s, when the internet was just first coming out. You know, it was just about to explode here towards the end of the 90s. And this sex tape, when it got leaked, it was huge news. You know, I remember back at this time period being in high school, this was, you know, everywhere. You couldn't go anywhere without hearing about these two and their relationship, all the paparazzi chasing them at the time. Yeah. And just having a celebrity sex tape out in the world there on the internet for everybody to see. And, you know, this was one of the first times where you didn't have to be older and like go rent a porno movie from the old, you know, back section of your local family video or whatever.
Yep.
It's, the internet really changed the game, of course, with that respect. And, you know, this tape was stolen. They didn't give the authority for this Rand guy, of course, to go and take this and upload it to the internet. So just a really wild story. And I look forward to seeing the whole saga play over these, you know, 8 episodes. But yeah, the first 3 episodes were released on Hulu the first night. Like you mentioned, it's got that scene where Tommy Lee's talking to his penis. That was really crazy. You know, some people will be like, what the hell? It was definitely a wild scene. I guess it kind of sums up the wildness of Tommy Lee and his persona. And I thought Sebastian Stan did a good job, you know, capturing him being a douchebag to everybody and kind of larger than life. He captured Tommy Lee, although, yeah, he doesn't look like him. He's a lot shorter. But you know, after a while, you're willing to put that aside. Lily James does a good job as Pamela. She does a better job, I'd say. You know, she's more closer to Pamela. She does a really great job in the role. You know, obviously Pamela's sort of an airhead, some would say, and there's definitely several scenes in here where you can tell that, you know, she probably deserved more than what she got in life. You know, these people on sets kind of treated her like a piece of meat, of course, during Baywatch times. And she's supposed to have this big monologue, and the directors, you know, wouldn't give her a chance, kind of laughed her off. So I think Pamela Anderson probably got the short end of the stick there. There was more than just the skin and all that, but ultimately that's, you know, what she's going to be remembered by, being this Baywatch beauty and being with Tommy Lee. It's, you know, there's not going to be a bigger celebrity relationship, and the sex tape really changed the game in terms of the society, the way, you know, porn is now on the internet. You know, mostly everybody has access to it. It really changed the game. Another great actor that shows up in Pam and Tommy, Nick Offerman, plays, you know, Uncle Milty here. He's kind of a porno director that Rand gets, you know, hooked up with and becomes friends with, and figures out a way to get this tape out there so he can make money. And they find out that they can upload it to the World Wide Web. Rand has, you know, got internet at his house. You know, he's younger, so he's kind of, you know, on with the times. He's got the internet, and he gets inspiration from hearing about another, you know, thing where, you know, you can set up an account and have, you know, credit card numbers. I think he's calling for a part for one of his jobs, a plumbing job on the toilets. And then he calls, and he gets this idea of setting this up on the internet and just having people, give him the credit card numbers, and then he can run and it just goes into account and he can bank on all that. And this is back when the internet's first around. There's hardly any security. It's a wild, wild west out there. So
Yeah.
he figured out a way, this is going to be his big moment. And we haven't got to the part on the show where it says how much he makes, but I can only imagine how much, he's going to see. And I look forward to seeing Seth Rogen's character and what his arc ends up to, because I don't know, I knew about the sex tape and everything, but I didn't really know about this other story with Rand too much and like what happens to him if he gets in any trouble so I look forward to watching more from the show for sure.
Yeah, me too. I don't remember. I just remember the tape being out, whatever happened to the person. And I'm assuming, I don't know, got put away or lived a scot-free life, was happy and had some money, made some money off of it. I'm not really sure. But it's really interesting to dive in back in, 1995, growing up as kids back then. It's interesting to see how the world has changed in terms of technology since then. Everything's pretty much accessible now on your computer or phone. You can find anything you want. So it's, kids watching this show are probably wondering, like, how did we survive back then, without technology? Or the introduction of it. We just, had to go outside and have fun and, watch Baywatch and listen to Motley Crue back then. So weird times, but definitely the 90s were a wild time. It was the Wild West back then. And something I'll always remember. So I had a great time with the show. Didn't take itself too serious. Very nostalgic. It's fun seeing these actors and actresses playing these characters. And I'm interested to see where the show goes. This series is 8 episodes streaming on Hulu. So that being said, I'm going to give Pam and Tommy a 3.5 out of 5 Sebastian Stan hair pieces.
Pam and Tommy's a really fun watch. It's a show that you're going to get into right away. It's fun, doesn't take itself too seriously, has a lot of comedic moments. Sebastian Stan and Lily James really do a great job in the role as Pam and Tommy. I really like Seth Rogen in the role. He has a cool mullet in it. Nick Offerman too, as Uncle Milty's got great hair. This story is just really wild and great for a nice limited 8 episodes. It's going to be a fun ride, and I am down with it. It's nothing spectacular, but there's seeing the first 3 episodes I'm in, and I'm definitely willing to give it a shot, and we'll watch the rest of the series. We need more series like this, just fun, kind of looks at moments in history. Like you mentioned, this happened during the 90s when we were in high school and going into high school. That whole time period, leading into that. So it was a big moment in our lives, and I look forward to watching the story play out on TV and going back in time. There's a lot of great music too, like you mentioned when we were talking about it earlier. A lot of good music from the show, 90s songs that you'll recognize.
LaBouche was that?
Yeah, LaBouche, and then it's got the "Love Me, Love Me."
Oh, yeah, Cardigans. Say that
Cardigans.
you love me.
Yeah. Love Fool. That's what it is. So it's got a lot of great 90s music. LaBouche, Love Fool from the Cardigans. Some really great old tunes that you'll recognize, especially if you grew up, during this time. So with that being said, I'm going to give Pam and Tommy, the 8-episode limited series on Hulu, a 3.5 out of 5 Tommy Lee hair pieces.
So we're interested in hearing your guys' thoughts on Pam and Tommy, the first 3 episodes. What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? What's your favorite new TV series you're checking out? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit subscribe. Also, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and our website, Cinephellas.com, for the latest, greatest TV, movie, and news and reviews.
And also, don't forget to check out Motley Crue's whole collection of their songs anywhere you get music, Spotify. Check out some of their big hits. They were huge in the 80s. If you're not really familiar with Motley Crue, most of you probably are, but they had some bangers back in the day. Home Sweet Home, big ballads. When they started out, they were the biggest hair band in the 80s. One of the first, one of the originals. Vince Neil and company are still out there going on a tour. It's a mess. If you see any of the footage of Vince trying to go out there and sing, his voice is completely shot. He's in terrible shape. He was supposed to be working out for the past couple of years for this big return World Stadium tour with Van Halen and a couple other, or maybe not, Def Leppard, I think it was, and a couple other bands from the era.
Yeah, Poison.
So it's kind of getting ridiculous, but of course they want to cash in. I think they sold their whole music catalog for like a little less than 200 million. So the boys cashed out. I think they were probably worth more than that, but they just figure, how much longer do we got to live here? Let's go out with the bang. Let's get some millions. And do this one tour. They keep saying it's the final tour. I saw them about probably somewhere around a decade ago when they came to the Rockford Metro Center, back when it was a Metro Center. Me and Gerald's went and saw the boys. So that was fun. We got to see Tommy Lee do his thing. He did this cool drum solo where they put him all the way up to the ceiling, basically turned him upside down. So he had his drum solo when he was upside down. Hell of a drummer, one of the best ever, of course. Huge douchebag. I'm sure he's better now. He's older. You can see how wild he was when he was younger, but you can only imagine being him, man. He was the biggest rock star ever. And, Pamela Anderson was definitely every bit his equal on the, female side. So we had a great time with Pam and Tommy. Let us know what you guys thought of the series. Let us know what you guys thought about the crazy scene with old Tommy Lee talking to his prosthetic penis there, having a conversation with his penis voiced by Rafi Jason Mantzoukas. Pretty hilarious, memorable scene, one that'll be talked about forever. Probably the one that the series will ultimately be remembered for, that crazy scene. We'll see if there's any more of the talking penis to come. With that being said, we had a great time reviewing the show. We're going to do a lot more reviews for you guys in the coming weeks, a lot more great titles to come in February. We got a busy schedule, so we're going to keep cranking them out for you guys. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We love the support. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and tell your friends about us. If you guys like movies and TV just as much as we do, we want to hear from you. So until the next Cinephellas TV review, I'm Uncle Henry Hill, and that's my good mate.
I'm Logan Lee.
Logan Lee. Cheers.